I really learned a lot, from Ali's presentation. I think there are so many things that's similar. Okay, in China, like in Turkey or in Africa, and even in other parts of the global South. And my talk in this 20 minutes is going to be, because it's only 20 minutes.
Longer.
Okay, but I've been working on this topic for like 10 years, so it won't be enough anyway. And so my goal is only to give a bird eyes view, and I mean a bird that flies really high. Okay, in part because China is a very large country. And yes, there are many patterns that we see in other countries, okay, like Turkey, okay, that we also see in China. But at the same time, China also has its characteristics, okay, not capitalism with Chinese characteristics, okay, but real digital working class struggle with Chinese characteristics. And this is the kind of digital struggles that I have been trying to come to terms with. And if you want to know more about the early history, okay, even pre-internet history, okay, I had a book, 2009 MIT Press book called Working Class Network Society. Okay, you can start from there. And my talk today is mostly based on my next book. It's called Goodbye iSlave. Okay, it's like iPhone, iPad, iSlave. Okay, and this I hope it will it's going to be published by University of Illinois Press probably around the end of this year, I hope. So in this new book, I summarize. The first thing is there has been a long history, okay, of working class struggles using internet, and especially the kind of interactive, okay, social media or online chatting, okay, more on-one kind of media, okay, not the kind of Web 1.0 using one website to essentially use the internet to broadcast one way to the world. For Chinese workers, they first, okay, I think the other night we were talking about Puerto Rico, or just now we're hearing from the Turkish experiences that the real workers' democracy needs to start to grow from bottom up. Okay, once you use that broadcast model, it usually is very easily to be hijacked by people who are not workers, right? And so is this really this kind of more P2P kind of, okay, interactive grassroots media? That's where working class solidarity, meaningful working class solidarity, starts, which is particularly important in the context of China, okay, one of the very few constitutional communist countries in the world, okay, but workers have lost control of the mass media, okay, and of the unions, okay, so we have similar problem of yellow union in China too, okay, so I don't care about whether you call it a union or you call it, okay, workers TV station, I don't care. What I care is whether there are meaningful ways for workers to share their life experiences, their difficulties and their struggles, okay, to fight the class war. And if we look at this history, okay, internet history is very long when we talk about 2004. Okay, that's 11 years ago. By my research, there were 3 major strikes. Okay, before 2004, there are already many, okay, worker strikes, okay, in foreign-owned enterprises, in Chinese state-owned enterprises. Every year there are thousands, but the state has been very successful, okay, until that point in time, to use number 1, mass media censorship, number 2, yellow unions or equivalents, okay, to prevent the words from going out from the neighborhood, to isolate the working class, to suppress them in isolation. But then in 2004, there are 3 strikes. One in northwest China in a province called Shanxi, and another one in Chongqing in southwest part of China, and the third one is actually called Uniden. It got UNIDEN. Okay, New York Times reported on this Uniden strike because its main product is making cordless phones for Walmart, right? And this is factory is next to Hong Kong. It's in the town called Shenzhen, where most of the iPhones are being made. Okay, and so so in this was the first period, the period of QQ. QQ is basically the Chinese version of ICQ. So this is what I would call the first generation, G1, okay, or 1G, okay, of working class social media in China. Okay, they use QQ and QQ group. You can use, this is if you still remember ICQ. Okay, so this was the Chinese copycat of ICQ. You can use it to form groups, and even to this very day, okay, QQ and QQ groups are still very popular because you can pay very inexpensive mobile internet fees to use them. Okay, and usually it's like I think it's now like half a dollar or $1. You can use it for a whole month. Okay, very low entrance fee, and it can also be used for small images. Okay, so this started from 2004. That's the first generation. Second generation would be BBS and forums and poetry. And in this second period, they move on more to images and videos. Okay, QQ, I would still, some people still say it's before 2004. Workers already started to use QQ. But 2004 was the year when I could find archive, okay, to show they actually used it to have real strikes. But then 2004 was also the same time when workers started to use online forums. These are commercial portals or bulletin board systems. And then there are more images and also blogs. Okay, I should put down blogs as well. Some of them use poetry blogs, like several of the Foxconn workers. Foxconn is the largest company making half the world's electronic gadgets, okay, including all the many of the Apple products. Okay, and the best way for worker poets is actually to use a blog, okay, to put their blogs and then with images. And gradually, when we get close to 2007, 2008, a video started to become popular. There was one major case of the Ole Wolf. It's a Danish company in eastern China, in Shandong province. And the struggle started in 2006 and lasted until 2009. And one of the most important things that came out from that strike was a worker named Zhang Jun, worker representative. He was using mobile phone to produce video, and that became very influential. And that was by my labor activist, sociology, friends. They realized they recognized that union from the Ole Wolf struggle as the first independent shop floor union in China now that was born out of real worker struggle. And then later on, recognized by ACFLTU, the official union, but it really came out from this online struggle, this offline struggle, in which the online video was a very important part of. And since 2009, 2009 was another watershed, for worker-generated content. You see, I call it work WGC in a deliberate way to differentiate all this tremendous development of worker content as something different from UGC, defined by corporate capital and under the state surveillance. And after 2009, so if you remember 2004 and 2009, then you got the three periods. The third period is the beginning of the Weibo, which is the Chinese version of Twitter. And Weibo has been popular from 2010 to 2013. And since 2013, it's WeChat. WeChat is a combination between Facebook and Weibo services, but it's also offered by Tencent, the big internet company that also produce QQ, provide QQ service. So you came a full circle, in the three stages. And here, when we talk about Weibo and WeChat, they're all social media. And with social media, it integrates text, small image, bigger image, videos, all are integrated into each other. So the three stages, historical stages for worker-generated content in China are not one replacing the other. They are cumulative. All three are still around, and they are still being used by workers on the ground in different combinations. So what are the kinds of working class struggles online when it comes to the content creation? People sometimes give me a one-word answer. I cannot do that for hundreds of millions of Chinese workers. So I developed, okay, I actually collect lots of videos, okay, online, and I developed a little typology. It's a 2x8 typology. Okay, first there are different kind of ownership schemes, and the workers I talk about in East, West, North, South China. They're very different. All right, they're different, owned by foreign capital or by state-owned enterprises, and different worker demographics. Younger worker and older workers are very different. But here is something I think that may have more universal value if you want to compare. Okay, working class struggle in Turkey or in Puerto Rico or in China. I think there are three fundamental dimensions. Number one, who are making these videos, these contents? Is it individual workers and nothing more, or workers organized? So it's the collectivity. Okay, if they're organized, it's on the left-hand side. If they're not organized, they're still individual agents, which is fine in some struggles. Okay, there is a minus. And then when they create the content, is there an activism orientation? Do they do that in order to change the world, or change the factory, or change the community? If it is yes, then it's this four, okay, on top. If no, it's on the bottom. And then the third one is empowerment effect. After all this struggle, okay, individual or collective, okay, with or without activism orientation, does it really make a difference for the workers? Right? So this would be the plus and minus. If we apply these three dimensions, there would be, logically speaking, 8 possibilities. Okay, and this is in sociology we call this property space analysis. And the 8th one, I don't call them WGC. Okay, if it is individually produced, not to change the world and have no empowerment effect, then it's only helping Mark Zuckerberg or his Chinese equivalents to get rich. It's not helping workers in any way. So what I'm more interested is in the first 7 cases. Okay, I won't have time to explicate all these 7 cases. You can wait for my book to be published to read about them. Okay, but the general point is that there are many different types. Okay, each dot in this typology is actually one worker struggle. Okay, I cannot have time to go through all of them. Okay, some of them are almost as large scale as Gezi Park, okay, but not really there. But then there are a whole system, of worker-generated content. Maybe if we go to a country like Turkey, maybe we can do this again, and the actual distribution of the video will be very different, okay. And I want to talk also about not just the rosy things, the powerful things of the internet. I think we've heard a lot about it, and I have experienced it. How workers. I myself also do multimedia, okay, action, okay, training, okay, with NGOs, with workers, all right. And I always see them do this better than me, okay, and they're even more enthusiastic than me. In part because, okay, over the past 11 years, I've been seeing more failures. Okay, I think this is normal for working class struggle, for the gender movement, for any kind of progressive movement in the conservative world. There's always more failures, okay, than success. Okay, so my role as a intellectual here is to also remember and analyze, okay, the failures, okay, so that we learn from the failures to prevent them from happening again. Okay, for the empowerment. So there are hidden injuries of worker-generated content. Most fundamentally, it's a political economy problem, because at the very end of the day, workers do not own Apple, or Samsung, or Google, or YouTube, or Youku, okay, or Tudou, okay. These are the Chinese equivalent, or Baidu, okay. This is the Chinese equivalent of Google. And then under that kind of political economy, okay, structure. What we see more, in this black part, okay, the user-generated content, is still that, the lines between, okay, worker-generated content and UGC are not absolute. Okay, it's oftentimes that workers, they generate their own content. It's like racism. Okay, let's be frank. Racism is not only created by the power elite. Okay, workers themselves produce racist, okay, words, images, slangs, okay, all the time. All right, laughing at each other. Okay, and so labor strata, okay, the labor aristocracy, and okay, the lower class, okay, the tension in between, sectorial divisions, and ethnic or quasi-ethnic divisions. By quasi-ethnic, we mean because most of the Chinese working class are of my ethnicity, okay, are the Han ethnic group. But the Han people from northern China or southern China, western, eastern are very different. Their accents are different. The way they dress, the way they look are slightly different. So not fully, okay, not fully ethnic divide. But we've seen lots of worker-generated content talking about not just workers fighting, okay, the guards, but also Hunan workers fighting Hubei workers, right? And that violent clashes sometimes also got lots of also went viral, and that's very bad for workers' solidarity. And also these visual materials, especially, I want to echo, this morning we talked about how visuals are important for the illiterate and semi-literate. But at the same time, visual images are open. Okay, the same image of police brutality can be interpreted as a trigger. Okay, we should be united against the brutal police. But it could also be interpreted, okay, at the same time, because it's open text, as a way to say it's okay to use violence. Okay, other guards, other police in another city say, oh, it's okay. You see, in southern China they're beating up, workers. We should also beat them up. Okay, or workers are by nature violent. They like violence. Therefore, okay, it's okay to use violence. When there's any disagreement among workers. Okay, or with the so it's this kind of open text, visual materials. That's another hidden injury. And finally, is something I think I already talked about, but the American scholar, Jody Dean, who's also involved. She calls herself a member of the American typing left, in the Occupy Wall Street movement. Right? She talked about this as communicative capitalism. Okay, again, when we are using these communication technologies, maybe at the end of one day out of 365 days of a year, worker win a battle. But if we look at the whole cycle of the Silicon Valley economy, maybe you win one day out of the year, but most of the time of the year is the capitalists, who are winning. You are becoming free labor. Okay, this is scholar Terranova in Goldsmiths College in London talk about this. We become free labor in our labor struggle. When we use digital media, we actually are producing more traffic for Silicon Valley billionaires, who are not paying us a single cent. Okay, so in that sense, this free labor exploitation is even more crude, is even more enslaving. And so, but I don't want to end on a pessimistic note, right? So these are only things to keep in mind, and I think we can think about more exciting, emerging alternative solidarity. This is also come from my personal reflection about 20th century working class solidarity in China, how it has worked for a few decades and not working for other decades. When workers struggle, win a few years, but could also be used by other forces outside the movement. One thing has to do is, I think it's in China as much as in other parts of the world, is the dominance of the industrial male figure. It's the typical, when we talk about the working class struggle in China, people would immediately think about a muscle man, but then when we see this digital, media, so what I'm starting to think is a feminine solidarity. For example, one of my most favorite, images, it's actually, a Reuters image, and several newspapers, including New York Times, used it. When you look at this is the Honda strike of 2010, in summer 2010. And which is probably, again, one of the most important event for worker struggle. And when Hong Kong journalists went to the Honda factories to interview them, these guys, who like to talk, we are the leader, But if you look at the actual photojournalism images is almost all factory women. Okay, most of them, when we talk about the Chinese workers are working, most of them are electronic, manufacturing jobs. They're factory women. They're the largest number of workers on the shop floor. They are the largest number of WGC, worker generated content creators online. Okay, so so is this a possibility, in China or in other places when we see a feminization of workforce, that can that become with the digital media, okay? Can that become, and also with the lowering of labor organizing thresholds, okay, with the digital media, okay? Does that mean, okay, feminine solidarity finally, okay, can be, as I'm not saying, okay, we guys are not important at all, okay? At least there will be more gender equality, okay, to organize traditionally marginalized, population of the workforce. Another solidarity I want to mention is in 2009. This morning I was asking questions. Some of you probably know where I'm going is how can the material workers on the assembly line form solidarity with workers in the data mine? Right? And so in China, we already had a case of hackers forming solidarity with workers. Right? This is a Chinese company called 361. Okay, it's a athletic shoe making factory. Okay, and they have been in struggle for a while. And after 2009, there's a financial crisis. Okay, and the factory was not treating them very well. But at the same time, in order to solve the financial problem itself, the factory actually went public in New York Stock Exchange. Before the IPO of any company, there will be a lot of information flowing around. And the workers, this is workers in Fujian province, okay, in southeast China, okay, and they knew how New York Stock Exchange works. So don't underestimate workers, okay? Even though they're in a small town, okay, in Fujian province, and they knew people will be Googling or Baiduing. Baidu is Chinese version of Google. This company called 361 before the IPO. So what they did is they talked to hackers, okay, who probably were not very well paid programmers, okay, in China, who are familiar with a specific technique. In this room, people were not too far away from Silicon Valley, so people in this room may have heard of it. It's called search engine optimization. Basically, it means when the potential stock buyers want to do research on you, when they Google that company 361, it comes out thousands and thousands of entries about the strike, about how the factory has been suppressing workers, not the company itself. Okay, so it was probably the first ever. I'm pretty confident in China at least. Okay, maybe it's the first ever in the world that workers forming solidarity, taking cyber war. Don't just think about cyber war as something Pentagon or the Israeli armed force or Moscow can do. Okay, workers have been using it. All right,
we call this Google bombing.
Google bombing. Okay, fantastic. I learned something new here. And back to this room, how can we be part of this? Okay, and movement. It's not just maybe I'm too old to do Google bombing. Okay, but we can at least the next time when your mobile phone fails, there's another way to do this. Phone is called Fairphone. I'm a little surprised. For a whole week, I've been in the Silicon Valley. Close to nobody heard about the Fairphone here. This Fairphone has just won the 2015 fastest growing tech startup in Europe award. It is made in China by Chinese workers, and the materials are coming from Congo. This is their website. Okay, so it's a Dutch social enterprise. I hope it will open up. So this is their website, and this is their last generation. It's the first generation. Okay, it's a 3G phone. What you are seeing over there, the 5,000, they sold more than 60,000 of this phone. Okay, which is basically the the social enterprise Fairphone redesign the global system of smartphone business. All right, and then this 5,544 means there are 5,544 people ordered it in Europe. They only do this in Europe now. I have to have a European friend to buy this, okay, and ship it for me, all right. But then so just look at this website. It's a new way, okay, to create a loop from raw material production in Congo, not by slave workers, okay, under the gunpoint of the warlords there, and then produced by Chinese workers, not under the semi-military management of Foxconn, okay, working so hard and making so little. Every $100 made from this phone, okay, $10 would go into a worker welfare fund. Okay, that's 10% compared to 1% of what Apple is giving as salary. I'm not even talking about salary. Okay, the 1% of iPhone is going into workers' salary in China. Okay, but this is 10% for worker welfare fund, and that welfare fund usage is going to be is decided democratically by worker community. Okay, a committee to decide how to use these funds, and at the end of the day, there's a ecological way to recycle and reuse. Okay. The raw materials and the parts, okay, for a green phone, okay, and so check out this website if you have friends, okay, and join the movement for China and for the world. Thank you. Steve is not here. Does this mean I get to talk more?
Okay, so let's take the questions. Any questions or comments on Jack's presentation? Yes.
Does your Fairphone work in the United States?
Yes, it has 2 SIM cards. Yeah, 2 SIM cards. So I have one of my China SIM cards is here, but I have a California SIM card working here.
Yeah.
The 3G is a little slow, not because of the phone. It's because San Francisco's 3G network, probably they're not investing in it. And it's very easy to open it. There's an app in it called iFixit. So if something goes wrong, it tells you how to fix this phone yourself.
Wow. How much are you selling it for?
I'm not selling it. You should. I'm very proud. I'm not. I won't sell this at all. I will use it as long as possible. And again, today's iPhones or Samsungs, they're designed to last somewhere between 18 months to 2 years. So if it breaks down, okay, buy the next one. This is designed like a Nokia. You can feel it, the weight, because the parts are metal parts, not plastic parts like iPhone and Samsung. Yes, Ricardo. Nationalism has been more effective, okay, among the working people in China. The nationalists have been more effective to protect the conservative ideology. Okay, so I think the number one nationalist target is not Vietnam yet. The number one national target is Japan. In southern China, for example, I know I do interview with Foxconn workers. Okay, I talked to a Foxconn worker who is semi-Chinese, semi-Vietnamese. All right, and she said she heard in another facility of Foxconn. Foxconn had dozens of facilities. She said she heard over there's a Vietnamese newspaper, because there are Foxconn brought many Vietnamese workers to be there, okay, to be trained and then send them back to Vietnam. But when I get to that facility, they're already gone. There was no such newspaper. Okay, so I could not find ways to even that workers I interviewed is half Vietnamese. Okay, but her cultural identity is almost completely Chinese. Okay, so again, the working class in China, while fighting, I think we need more help. I think probably like many other nationally based working class formations, we need help to prevent the kind of nationalistic, sentiments, because that's the lesson of World War I, right? How imperialist project can hijack that energy to build another project that's ultimately devastating the working class. Yes.
So,
Todd, yeah.
I know you're from Hong Kong. Last year we were hearing a lot in this country about the democracy movement. In Hong
The
Kong.
umbrella movement, yes.
Umbrella, yes. So can you just comment about your take on all that?
I would say just now when I was listening to Ali, it was 90% similar. Okay, to except we don't get internet censorship at the level of Turkey. Okay, like so the Hong Kong is somewhere between Gezi uprising and Occupy Wall Street. Hong Kong is where that it is. Okay, and in terms of the internet situation, yeah, and. But now I think my sense about the Occupy movement in Hong Kong, we also call it Occupy Central. Okay, is no longer very the young people are very demoralized. Okay, and nobody really knows. Okay, we don't we are waiting for the end of this year. Hong Kong will have a district council election. I tried. Okay, I actually went to there are 3 main Occupy sites in Hong Kong. And one of them is known as the most working class. Okay, it's in Mong Kok. Okay, I actually did most of my interviews. I even did a little survey in there, and I wanted to see how important is the class politics. Okay, in my survey, I asked people to identify whether they're working class or middle class. Okay, and and their position. Okay, towards them, because the trigger of the umbrella movement is the political reform bill. Okay, and it turns out class, at least by this measure, self-identified class position is not very important. Even though compared to the other 2 sides, people say this is the most working class. Other are white-collar workers go there, but then what really comes out is age. Okay, young people are much more supportive, and older people are much less supportive of the pro-democracy movement. Okay, so I would again echo what Ali just said. We need a new class analysis because this is a new working class in the making, and for us in the umbrella movement or in Gezi Park to capture the dynamics, okay, of real class. Power and class domination. We need to go beyond the traditional ways. Okay, to identify yourself using individual. Okay, I'm from rich family, or I do rich job, well-paid job. From a more networked way to, sometimes I call them network labor. I think yes. Let me add one more thing. That's unique. Okay, unique to a degree. Right. In the Hong Kong umbrella movement is what I would call an outburst of creative energy. Okay, in part because Hong Kong's umbrella movement is much less bloody. Okay, the density of the tear gas, we get some density, but no way close to what we just saw. Okay, what Ali went through. Okay, no way close to that type of density. Okay. But because Beijing had a policy, okay, Beijing's bottom line is no bloodshed and no compromise. Okay, so within this framework, there's no bloodshed, in the street, but no compromise to the protesters. But at the same time, you have a free media environment. Okay, all the world's journalists came here. My student workers, when they came to class, they would bring a helmet with press on it. Okay, and they literally the classroom looked like a war zone, because the police would use clubs to hit their head. They have to wear helmets. Okay, and but it's in this environment with number one freedom of the press. Okay, at least by international standard, freedom of the press in Hong Kong. Number 2 is no bloodshed. Okay, no compromise. So the Hong Kong Occupy, okay, actually lasted for 96 days. Okay, and during that period, and another very important thing, Hong Kong is like Puerto Rico. Okay, the Hong Kong does not have sovereignty, so Hong Kong has to communicate to Beijing. Okay, so it's really about communication, about persuading Beijing, or while also getting international support. Okay, including from the longshoremen union in San Francisco. All right, and so it became the digital media. Okay, component is I would say heavier. Okay, than many other. Okay, even if you cannot occupy Beijing in Hong Kong. All right, so that is the more unique part. So in that process, we see dozens, and I think at least 3 dozens new, internet channels. Some of them are video, some of blog. Okay, they all emerge, and I would say more than half of them are not leftist, are not socialist. Okay, they are the more liberal. Okay, I would say 6 or 7 of them. But then only 1 or 2 of them got lots of hits. But then the more lefty learning, there are also, I would say 30–40% of them are left-leaning. Okay, and especially the younger the protesters are, and the more educated they are, they end their rallies with the Communist International. All right, and then they get. I would say, if we talk about traffic, okay, the leftist side, despite the less number, okay, but they actually got equal. I would say about equal number of traffic. So it's a very interesting moment, and we still have to wait and see. Okay, by the next district election to see how it really plays out.
Yeah, he mentioned, Occupy Wall Street, but, it's a lot of myth about Occupy Wall Street. I was in Occupy Wall Street in Boston and the Socialist Caucus. And so, Occupy Wall Street included Democratic Party, grassroots organizers that didn't want socialism or communism being mentioned. I mean, and ultimately some people thought about, occupying spaces would be, this beginning of a revolution, and everybody knows that you have to do much more than that for any kind of revolution. Production, democratic participation of workers, etc. It is beyond. If you want to make a revolution, occupying a space, and among the 1% down, there is a layer of bureaucrats, managers, technocrats that they're millionaires, and not necessarily the owners of the means of production, but they're not necessarily capitalists, and they're not part of the 99%. So it is beyond the so-called 99%.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think therefore that the debate, at some point, has to be around, the question of power, the question of a party, and so on. Because, it's a difference between a revolutionary alternative that actually advocates for something like that. The Social Democrats are always speaking about democracy, space, we all can share, we all can be together in this thing. And what remains is capitalism or class society, because it is no way but two sides of the question, two classes antagonizing and fighting against each other. So how you see that?
First, I definitely agree. The concept of communicative capitalism came directly from the Occupy Wall Street. Okay, and in what sense, does this strengthen Wall Street? Okay, or IT money? Okay, IT capital? Okay, in that sense. But in the Hong Kong experience, okay, I see again, like what you saw in Boston. There's a whole spectrum from the ultra left to the ultra right. Okay? And usually, what I would see is the ultra left are not so influential online, at least in Hong Kong. Okay, it's the more moderate, more democratic, more socialist. They get more traffic. But on the right side, we really need, okay, especially we talk about online, okay, mobilization, online, social movement for alternative future. Okay, there are people who want the alternative future in the ultra rightist way. Okay, and on the right side is the pattern. At least I don't know how this plays out in other places. Okay, the ultra right is the more radical you are, the more popular you are, the more hits you got, and that is we actually in Mongkok. Okay, they actually they organized by different tents. Okay. So one tent is the ultra right, okay. The other one is the moderate right, and then the left and ultra left, okay. And by the end of the movement, I was there the night. They literally they were not only, having online, okay, critique, okay, fighting by words, okay. Actually, the people coming from the alt-right tent actually physically attacked. I was taking picture of them physically attacking other, because everyone was broadcasting from their tents. They were pushing down other people's tents. So they were more destructive. Okay, so this is something the comrades on the left need to develop analysis. We can not only use our analytical lens to analyze our own successes and failures. We also need to analyze, okay, what's going on the right side, okay, and how they have been successful to sell racism, to sell, okay, why the ultra-right view was the most influential is because they were trying to give a spin to the umbrella movement. It's not as a class warfare, but as a mainlander versus Hong Kong people. So it's identity politics. It's a local version of nationalism or racism. Okay, and then so this is really another part of our important digital media spectrum. We have to focus on. Otherwise, we would ignore it at our peril.